Juneteenth commemorates the end of slavery and has long been a celebration of African American freedom. It marks the day, June 19, 1865, when Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, to inform enslaved people that they were free. But Juneteenth is just one of many Emancipation Days celebrated in the United States. We're going to take a look at the journey to Juneteenth and the importance of celebrating Black freedom. Along the way, we will hear from Black Minnesotans about what Juneteenth means to them. African Americans learned about and experienced emancipation on different dates throughout U.S. history, starting when Pennsylvania passed the Gradual Abolition Act in 1780. When word spread that Britain abolished slavery in its colonies on August 1, 1834, African Americans marked the occasion with Emancipation Day celebrations. The holiday was used to mobilize the anti-slavery movement in the United States and to inspire hope within the Black community. In the 1860s, the Civil War and the end of slavery in the United States gave rise to more Emancipation Days. But there was no single day selected for the holiday, because enslaved peoples received the news of the Emancipation Proclamation at different times. For some, it was September 22, 1862, the day President Lincoln announced his intention to sign the proclamation. For others, it was on January 1st, 1863, the day the proclamation was actually signed. In Texas, it was June 19, 1865, the day the news was delivered in Galveston. These holidays have been given many names: Emancipation Day, Juneteenth, Freedom Day, Black Independence Day, and Jubilee Day.
As a child, I learned about emancipation through our church, and we would have what's called a watch night service, and that watch night service was in remembrance of the first Emancipation Proclamation going into effect on January 1st of 1863. So every year in our church, that December 31st night was of special importance, reminding us that our ancestors had waited for freedom.
Despite their many different names, the celebrations shared similarities. They included prayers, sermons, speeches, barbecues, music, dancing, and often staged readings of the Emancipation Proclamation. The events were spaces of joy for the Black community, to socialize, proclaim their political identities, and organize efforts to fight against racial discrimination and demand full citizenship rights. In the case of Juneteenth, it gradually spread across the country as Black Texans migrated north, and the holiday became commercialized in the 1920s and 30s around food festivals.
That's the thing about Black joy, I can only say, is as much tragedy and as much hardship that we go through, even during those painful times, it's the food that draws people together. It's that aspect of culture that's so important.
In the aftermath of the Civil War, Black Minnesotans primarily celebrated emancipation on January 1st, September 22nd, and August 1st. Black-owned newspapers, fraternal organizations, and social groups typically organized these events and invited all Minnesotans to attend. One of the earliest celebrations took place on January 1st, 1870, at the prestigious Pence Opera House in Minneapolis, a place normally reserved for whites only. Railroads and stage companies charged half price for African Americans attending the event. Between 3,000 and 4,000 people were in attendance for the day-long festivity. Celebrations like these continued in Minnesota throughout the 20th century, with several emancipation picnics taking place on Harriet Island in St. Paul. In 1982, Juneteenth celebrations began in Minneapolis.
Well, that first Juneteenth, I was up at 4 o'clock that morning making wake-up calls to make sure that people would be where we needed them to be, when we needed them to be, and how we needed them to be.
When I first moved here to Minnesota as an adult and learned that even in Minnesota people were commemorating Juneteenth, it was going to this festival and going to a parade. When I found out about it and realized, okay, I grew up in an all-Black community. I grew up in an all-black church. I went to all-black schools. I went to a historically black college and university, yet I had never heard of Juneteenth that I recall.
Emancipation Days were unofficial holidays for the African American community across the country. But as anti-black racism intensified throughout the 20th century, Black communities organized to gain state and federal recognition for their Emancipation Days. Texas recognized Juneteenth as a holiday in 1980, and many states slowly followed. Thanks to the work of activists like Opal Lee, Juneteenth became a federal holiday in 2021. And in 2023, Governor Tim Walz made it a state holiday in Minnesota.
Well, I think all of us being able to be in one space. You know, being a minority in Minneapolis, you can kind of be invisible. But when you have your own special day, acknowledging your own culture, and hundreds of people who look like you are all out with their children and families, it was just so affirming, so affirming.
It's important for me to start celebrating it because the same way people celebrate the 4th of July, and that's just like their holiday to show their independence, similar for Africans in the diaspora and in America to have like a celebration that, you know, is significant in their history of the progress that they've made.
There is no one voice or individual that can capture the meaning of Juneteenth. There are many voices that tell many stories about the holiday. What they all share is a commitment to celebrating Black freedom and resilience.
You can't know what's going to happen today if you don't know what happened yesterday, and tomorrow is built on today.
In our celebration that we do, we try and enlighten people on Juneteenth, try and bring some historians that really understand it and try and help share it with other people, their knowledge. And I think that's the piece that has been missing, is handing down the knowledge and keeping it going.
So it's about educating us, educating our children, and then educating the rest of Minnesota.